Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. Remember that time that Superman turned into a werewolf? Now that's actually a thing because they've cast Superman. It's going to be Tyler Hoechlin from Teen Wolf. Do not be bummed that Tom Welling isn't going to be Superman on Supergirl. Just because he's not this version of Superman doesn't mean he won't cameo on the show at a certain point. I definitely think he'll cameo. I think there are a lot of reasons why they decided to go with Tyler Hoechlin. One, because he's a little bit hotter right now. Tom Welling hasn't been super active in the last couple years, and they really need to sell this show to a really broad audience, not just the people who were fans of Smallville. And if you haven't seen him, he's actually been in a couple of movies recently. He was just in Richard Linklater's Everybody Wants Some with Supergirl's husband in real life. Melissa Benoist's husband was the main character in that movie. Tyler Hoechlin was also one of the leads. So there's already been kind of a pseudo Supergirl Teen Wolf crossover. And another deep cut for anybody that didn't watch Teen Wolf. Colton Haynes was on Teen Wolf before he became Roy Harper. So we've already got werewolves in the DC universe. And even Stephen Amell, Oliver Queen, played a werewolf on Vampire Diaries. So you already see like the big genre mashup writes itself. There's been a bunch of times Batman and Superman have either turned into werewolves and vampires or have fought them. So I'll talk about that in a second. But basically what's going on with Superman on Supergirl Season 2 is that he's going to be in the first 2 episodes of the season and then maybe show up in the back half. The whole point in them casting a new version of Superman is so that they can have an actor come on screen and actually interact with Supergirl. It's not going to be like text messaging. It's not going to be him blurry off screen like it was during season 1 on CBS. So it'll be a real deal Superman. And I think this is largely due to some of the changes that are going on behind the scenes of the movies. Typically at Warner Brothers, the status quo was no Superman, no Batman on TV while they're going on in the movies. But now that they've allowed Superman, they've teased Barbara Gordon on Arrow. I think we'll slowly start to see some more of those A-list characters appear on the TV shows. And most of you are asking, like, hey, now that we actually have a real Superman on screen, when are we going to get Batman? I think it's going to take a little bit longer, and a lot of that has to do with what's going on Gotham. Now, they're working up to Batman, but they're kind of a prequel series, so Batman isn't Batman yet, so it gets really complicated when you think about stuff like that. So just assume multiverse theory, there is a Bruce Wayne Batman out there, we'll see him eventually, but arrival date just to be determined. What about the Justice Society though? Superman is a huge part of that. Well, I think Supergirl is going to be more actively involved with the big crossovers that they have because it's her TV show. Superman is more of a guest, so we might hear him making offhanded remarks, jokes, references to Justice League, Justice Society things. But I think when we do like the big 4-night crossover, if there is Superman stuff, he's going to be relatively minimal. The real thing now is I'm waiting for people to joke about Holland Roden coming on as like Miss Martian. We've seen White Martians, but we haven't seen Miss Martian on Supergirl. I feel like she'd be an awesome character, just a really badass female character for Supergirl to interact with. But the problem with that is that she's kind of part of the Teen Titans universe, and they were previously tied up with another TV show project, which has actually been lost in the Phantom Zone. So unless she's one of those characters that's earmarked for another project, I think they could totally do Miss Martian on Supergirl. That would definitely be the place to introduce her into the multiverse. What I really like to see though, is once they get to the point where they introduce a whole bunch of big superpowered characters, they just allow them to cross over independently of the other characters on their shows. So like when Supergirl crosses over with the Flash, you'll probably see some Martian Manhunter things. It would be awesome if Martian Manhunter could just go on somebody else's show by himself. So if you're wondering if we're going to see any scenes with Superman and Oliver Queen interacting, I'm not expecting that, but it's totally fair game. It's all fair game now that they're in the universe. When it comes to big Justice Society crossovers, because Legends is doing the Justice Society story, I think most of the references to all that stuff happening will be on that show. Each of the shows is going to have its own storyline to pursue. Really when you're going to see like the peak comic book moment where all the characters are interacting with each other or joking or referencing each other is going to be during that big 4-night crossover. All of the TV shows have been making a bunch of casting announcements about characters that are coming on, mostly hero characters. There haven't been a lot of villain announcements yet, but I am working on Arrow and Justice Society videos next. I'll do a new Flash Rebirth video, so there's a bunch of details that we have to talk about for all the TV shows, but I'll try to keep those in those separate videos just because there's so much going on right now. Just get really hyped for Justice Society things happening on all these TV shows. They've been casting a whole bunch of new Justice Society characters. So what about vampires and werewolves in the multiverse? Cisco already made zombie jokes because of zombie girder during The Flash Season 2, and if you read Crisis on Infinite Earths, they did have vampire Superman from an Earth that had been completely turned into vampires. Where like all the superheroes got bitten, it was like a world full of vampires. I think that was called Earth V, but it was just an offhanded, ridiculous thing that they just included for an Easter egg. Vampire Superman is kind of ridiculous sounding because vampires are weak against sunlight, Superman is powered by sunlight, so it doesn't really make sense that Dracula would be able to turn him. But there was a storyline in the Jimmy Olsen comic book way back where like all the classic monsters come to life in Cadmus Labs because a bunch of bacteria gets transmitted through this special device. So you have Frankenstein, Dracula, the werewolf, the mummy, all going after Superman. But typically, anytime you see Batman or Superman fighting werewolves, zombies, any of the classic monsters, it tends to be a one-off story and something that exists in like an alternate universe. So I think the closest we'll actually get to seeing the characters in the TV universe fight werewolves and vampires is when Cisco makes jokes about it on The Flash. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about Tyler Hoechlin, and how do you want to see the show use Superman in the future? Supergirl itself, and then in big crossovers. I feel like everybody wants to see a big Justice League, Justice Society team-up episode. They're already doing Justice Society, so we're halfway there. But what's going to happen next, just because I haven't done a Marvel video in a little while, I'm going to do a new Civil War video. They're teasing the Hulk killing the Marvel Universe, which I just love because Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe was a really fun storyline in the comics. Now they have Hulk kills the Marvel Universe. So be sure to subscribe to get that video. It should post in a couple hours. And then I'll do an Arrow Season 5 video for the new Omar character from The Wire that they've cast. Now, they didn't get the actor Omar. I made a joke about this, and I feel like half of the people didn't get it. When I said Arrow Season 5 cast Omar from The Wire, they cast a new character from the comics who's playing a vigilante whose superpower is blowing the shit out of people with regular guns. So Arrow's doing a character that is very like, almost exactly like Omar from The Wire, which is really funny because I always talk about Arrow Wire references. But then after that, there'll be some Flash Season 3, Flash Rebirth stuff from the comics, so all kinds of Marvel DC stuff happening this week. While you guys wait for that video to post, you can click here for my Game of Thrones Episode 9 trailer, and you can click here to watch South Park roast the shit out of Marvel and DC movies. It's the greatest thing ever. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let's high five. I'll see you guys tonight.